Hey folks, as usual, Hoyt offers aluminum and carbon bows every year, and usually they've been two very different shooting experiences. Hoyt's been working to get them closer and closer together, and I think this year it's the closest they've ever been. Hey everybody, this is PJ Riley from Lancaster Archery. Chilly November day. We are out here to tell you about flagship hunting bows from Hoyt for 2024. I am holding the RX-8, and right here I've got the Alpha X30. There's also an Alpha X33. I've got the Alpha X30. Two great new bows from Hoyt this year where they have done a lot. I got to give Hoyt credit. They have been working towards improving that shooting experience. Chipping away every year. To my taste, they've gotten a little bit better and a little bit better. And usually what we see is that there's a carbon experience and an aluminum experience, and they're two very different. But Hoyt this year they're saying they've got two flagship bows, but one shooting experience they just want you to pick. And I think they've gotten about as close as they've ever been to having a carbon bow and an aluminum bow shoot very similar to each other. We'll tell you all about that in a second here, but first, let's get the specs for the RX-8 and the Alpha X30. The Hoyt Carbon RX-8 measures 30 and 9/16 inches axle to axle. It's going to weigh 4 pounds, have an IBO speed rating of 342 feet per second, with a brace height of 6 1/8 inches. You're going to have 3 different modules with a total draw length adjustment range from 25 inches up to 30 inches. It's going to be available in peak draw weights of 50, 60, 65, 70, and 80 pounds. The Hoyt Alpha X30 measures 30 3/8 inches axle to axle. It's going to weigh 4.55 pounds. IBO speed rating of 344 feet per second, brace height of 6 3/16 inches. It's going to have 3 different modules with a total draw length range of 25 inches to 30 inches, and it's going to be available in peak draw weights of 50, 60, 65, 70, and 80 pounds. Oh, that was another one. All right, so the RX-8 obviously is the carbon. The Alpha X30, that is the aluminum version. First, we're going to talk about similarities, because again, what Hoyt wanted to do was build two very similar bows, a lot of the same technologies. Everything I'm going to talk about is going to be the exact same technologies. Starting here with a new cam. We have a HBX Exact cam, and Hoyt calls this their most customizable cam that they've ever had. And it's got a lot of cool features in it. So first off, for draw length, you're going to have the rotating module here. And what they've done is, in the past, if you're familiar with Hoyts, they used to have different cam sizes and then adjustment ranges within there. However, what they've gone to is having one cam, but now different modules. And what they want to do is they want to get peak performance out of all the different draw lengths. And if you just have one rotating mod, that goes from 25 to 30 inches, you're going to have some winners and losers in there. So Hoyt wants to minimize that. So they've come up with 3 modules. So right here, I have the number 3 module. So this one is adjustable from 28 1/4 inches up to 30 inches. And it is adjustable in 1/4 inch increments. That's a new feature for Hoyt this year. So why is that a big deal? 1/4 inch draw length adjustments. So a lot of times, in the past, it had been 1/2 inch. And what would happen is, 28 1/2 and 29, neither of those feel exactly right. You need to be somewhere in between. So what you're going to do is you're going to twist up the cables to lengthen that to get to like 28 3/4. So the engineers, they don't want you doing that, because then that changes the specs of the bows. They want you to have the cables at the length they come from the factory. So if you can now adjust by 1/4 inch increments, now you've lessened, if you do need to tweak things with cables, it's minimal. So 1/4 inch just allows you to really fine tune that draw length to get it exactly where you want it. So on the modules here, you're going to have your draw stop. And you're going to notice now there are 3 different positions. You've got 75, 80, and 85. That's the let off, percentage of let off. So you get to adjust it to where you want it. You're also going to see an H and an HX. And so those are 2 very different feelings for the draw stops. And what you would do is, you know, if you want the H position. So that one is a real solid back wall. Feels like a limb stop, basically. The HX is a little bit softer, not quite as hard as that. And how you would achieve that is you're going to swap them. You're going to take the top one, move it to the bottom one, move it to the top. Now you've gone from H to HX. Again, customizing it, get it to the way you feel about it. And sticking with the cams, you know, it's the little details in bows that really mean a lot. You're going to see this device right here. So this has a little rubber pad on the top there. And now I've got an attached bipod on here that we'll talk about in a second, but you can see right here, this rubber pad. So when I set this bow down, what it's setting on is that rubber pad. And you can imagine if you're lowering your bow from the tree stand down, what's it gonna hit? It's gonna hit that rubber pad first and not the cam. Something, you know, of small detail, but for bow hunters, that's a big detail that's going to protect that cam. Great addition there by Hoyt this year. All right, so the limbs, we've got new limbs this year for the Hoyt bows. They're going to be wider and they're going to be shorter. That wider stance there, of course, that just makes these things super stable at full draw, really hold very nice when you're aiming there. And of course, the shorter, that increases efficiencies while also allows them to cut some weight out. So dual purpose there, shorter, wider limbs. They're just make for a better shooting experience. Oh, that one was in there. All right, now coming down the bow, of course, you know, streamlining, that's the name of the game today. And both Hoyts, they will have a Picatinny sight mount. If that's how you want to mount a sight, of course, they still have your standard threaded holes on the side for standard sight mounting. And then they will have the machine dovetail. If you want to use one of the integrate style rests, there is that feature on there as well. I have one of the integrates on the Alpha X30 here, but I've got a standard rest on the RX8. You can mount either one, whichever one you want. Now, coming down the bow, you are going to get 2 different stabilizer positions, standard one directly under the grip, and then this one way out in front, which it is going to come with your short stop stabilizer. That was something Hoyt introduced a couple years ago. And this is a vibration dampener, but you can see, so this is a 12-inch stabilizer I've got here, and you can see where the short stop starts. What that would allow you to do is to get the equivalent stabilization is you can use a much shorter stabilizer to get that same stabilizing effect. That's why Hoyt has this mounted down here. And then, of course, as you can see, I've got their new bipod mounted on the bow here, which you can shoot with this on the bow. I didn't notice any detrimental effects with this on there, and it's super handy for setting it down. You know, you're a ground blind hunter, set this right down on the ground. That's super handy to have that on there. Now, for sidebars, if you want to mount a side rod on there, Hoyt does something a little bit different. So on neither bow are you going to have a rear bushing like we typically see for mounting a bracket to get your side rod on. Hoyt has this attachment down here on the RX8, and they've got a position right there. So they have what they call the SL sidebar mount. That's what you're going to use, and it's just streamlined. You don't have to deal with one of those larger side rod mounts. You know, they can be bulky, they definitely add weight. The Hoyt mount is much slimmer, weighs a lot less. That's how you're going to mount your side rod. And on both bows, we do have the Vital Point grip. And this, you can see slightly angled there. It's going to give you a little bit of a higher wrist than perfectly vertical. Nice and comfortable. It is rubber. cold day out here, that thing feels good on your hand. Great flat spot on the back there for getting your hand index, get that proper position. In a grip, what we want is to have it repeatable so that you can find the same spot over and over again. This is a very comfortable angle here, that Vital Point grip. So what Hoyt is saying with the RX-8 and the Alpha X30 is they wanted to have two flagship offerings, but they wanted to be your choice rather than two completely different bows. They had, basically all the same technologies. What's different is the material. This one's carbon, that one's aluminum. So you're just gonna choose that experience from them. And, with them having a lot of the same technologies, I felt a lot of the same performances. However, what I will say is that the RX-8 here, I think this is the nicest shooting carbon bow that Hoyt has put out. I've shot them all. This is the RX-8. I've shot them all going all the way back to the Carbon Matrix. And I've talked about every year how they just keep getting a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. And so the RX-8, first thing I noticed was the lack of hand shock. Carbon has that thump. Aluminum's gonna vibrate, carbon's gonna have a thump. That's just what you expect from carbon. And with this RX-8, it's almost gone. There's hardly any feel to that. And I just noticed this bow held nice, it shot nice. The draw cycle on this HBX Exactcam is killer, nice and smooth. I tried it on both of the let-off positions, the H and the HX. Both of them are comfortable, real nice. I probably prefer the H, that real hard back wall there. That seemed to be what I like. But they're both great shooting bows, but I just found that this RX-8, man, I really like the way this thing shoots. So on the Alpha X30, we should mention here that Hoyt has completely redesigned the riser. You can see that is not like any riser, aluminum riser that we've seen from Hoyt before. Different cutouts, different bridges, different design. What the engineers have said was they were striving to eliminate noise and vibration, which I think they've done. Both of these bows make hardly any noise compared to that tractor that you hear in the background right there that is moving at a snail's pace while we're trying to film here. And he stopped right there and backed up. All right, so Hoyt is making it difficult for you this year. They built two bows with pretty much all the same technologies, just different materials. Now it's up to you to choose the Carbon RX-8 or the aluminum Alpha X30. So there are going to be other length versions of these bows. As I mentioned, there will be an Alpha X33, 33 inches axle to axle, and then there's going to be an RX-8 Ultra. That's just over 33 inches. So those are two other options available as well. So there are other options. These are the two that we had experience with. If you want to see all of the offerings from Hoyt this year, be sure to click the link in the description below. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like it, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to click that bell to get notifications whenever we put out new videos. As always, if you have any questions, you can visit us at LancasterArchery.com.